All right. Gaza War Day 226. And the first thing I'll address is the um, helicopter possible crash. I've heard the words hard landing used of the president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, at the border with Azerbaijan. It was apparently a kind of a routine event, but the weather was exceptionally bad and the helicopter went down. After a long search, it was located, and I guess rescue teams are on their way. That's the latest news as of 11 p.m. Eastern time when I'm recording this. So I guess what happened is not known. Will probably be known in more detail in a matter of hours or a day. I will say, from the point of view of these sit reps and from the point of view of the war, we've already heard from figures in the Iranian government that whatever happens, whatever happened, that Iran will continue supporting the resistance. And it is important to note that the Iranian policy towards Palestine and towards Lebanon and Hezbollah and Yemen and Iraq, all of these have been underway for decades. And so it's not something that's going to change because even of a tragic accident like the death of the president in a helicopter crash. So I don't expect anything to change there. I'm sure Iranians will mourn and there will be, I mean, assuming the worst. We don't necessarily know that it's going to be the worst outcome, but I'm sure that there will be a period of mourning and so on. But the the continuity of the policy is much deeper than a president. There have been many presidents over the decades that Iran has been enacting this policy, and they have changed. The presidency has changed. Leaders certainly matter. I'm not saying they don't, but there's a depth to what Iran has built locally and in the region, and it's not going to be interrupted by what happened today. And we don't know for sure what happened today, but I'm sure we will. Now, that's why I came on. I wanted to just kind of tell people that, give people that level of reassurance. But while I'm here, I might as well do a couple of reports from the fronts. Hezbollah had a very active day. The summary of their activity on the 19th includes hitting the Ramtha site with rocket weapons, achieving a direct hit. Metula, they hit 3 Israeli soldiers opposite the Al-Khiam airport with a guided missile, inflicting deaths and injuries among them. They targeted the headquarters of a reconnaissance company from Battalion 6551 of Brigade 551 Paratroopers Reserve in the Metula colony with an assault drone. In the western sector, they targeted the Rahib site with artillery. They targeted a Hummer military jeep at the Malikiya site with a guided missile, leaving its crew between dead and wounded. They targeted newly installed espionage equipment at the Ramia site. They targeted the Jal al-Alam site with artillery shells, targeted the spy equipment at Malikiya site, targeted the newly installed espionage equipment at the Malikiya site. So they made this extensive map of what they did. The Iraqi resistance targeted a target in Eilat with drones, and there is fighting. Resistance fighters targeted an Israeli vehicle in Khalil Hebron. There was major fighting in Jenin. There was fighting in other parts of the West Bank. They planted, there was there was explosives in Tulkarm. So extensive fighting all over the West Bank and from Hezbollah, including videos that I'm sure you'll see. Now, Qassam also published a summary of their activity over the past between May 16th and 18th. They actually published an infographic, which I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, so the infographic shows the following: 20 Israeli soldiers and officers, which they can confirm are eliminated. 81 soldiers and officers either killed or wounded. 31 vehicles completely or partially destroyed. 32, actually, in the infographic. 3 groups targeted with anti-personnel explosives. 3 buildings targeted with anti-personnel shells. 3 either soldiers, officers, or snipers that were hit by resistance snipers. 1 rocket barrage launched towards the interior. 22 bombardments of field command headquarters and military gatherings with mortar shells, 1 helicopter targeted with an SAM-7 missile, surface-to-air missile 7. I guess that's a Soviet make, and 3 tunnel openings or artillery positions detonated against soldiers. So that should give you a measure of the intensity of fighting in both Rafah and Jabalia. Rafah in the south on the Egyptian border and Jabalia in the north in Gaza City. Apparently, the Israelis have admitted to the deaths of 2 of those soldiers and 4 injuries. So if the resistance is reporting 20 deaths and 80 injuries or deaths, and the Israelis are saying 2 and 4, that means the Israelis are undercounting by a factor of 10 and by a factor of 20 for injuries if you believe the resistance. Maybe it's somewhere in between. Maybe the resistance is right. Maybe the Israelis are right. But that's the disparity. So if you're trying to figure out what the resistance number would be, you would take the Israeli number of killed and multiply by 10. You'd take the Israeli number for injured and multiply it by 20. The last thing I'll say in this very short report today is I want to just talk about Benny Gantz. There was a lot of news. There's a lot of news yesterday. I think it's come and gone, but the news was that one of the ministers in the government, Benny Gantz, he gave an ultimatum and he said, if Netanyahu doesn't implement this plan by June 8th, so he's given him a number of weeks, basically 3 weeks, to implement a plan to basically rule the Gaza Strip. And if he doesn't implement this plan or agree to this plan by June 8th, then Benny Gantz will leave the war cabinet and they'll form another government to do it. When you look at the plan, it looks more or less the same as what Netanyahu's trying to do. They want to get rid of Hamas. They want to replace Hamas with a government of local people that are compliant with Israel, and they want to get all the hostages back one way or another. And so it's totally unclear what this controversy is even about. He's saying he thinks he can do it better than Netanyahu, but there is no, from a point of view of, I don't know, human rights or international law or being against mass murder, there's nothing here in this plan that is any different from what Israel is doing now. So it's all a lot of theater, and maybe it's a little media operation against Netanyahu for North American consumption or something. But I don't think there's anything for us to find all that interesting for people who are what I would call in the anti-genocide bloc. There's nothing there. This is not where it's going to be settled, as I always say. So I think I'll stop there. The main thing was I wanted to give a little report on what happened in Iran, and while I'm here, give you a summary of the ferocious ongoing fighting in Gaza and on the border with Hezbollah. Okay, I'll stop. Hang in there. Please like, comment, subscribe. and we'll see you in the next one.